All right, ladies and gentlemen, back here with your Pratt Pack, getting ready to talk to Ted Arnaud on the Comcast Newsline about the American Health Care Act, which passed today, and we're going to have details on it in just a moment, 217 to 213. But here is a statement from my Congressman Keith Rothfuss. Obamacare is making insurance unaffordable for those in the individual and small group market, both with and without pre-existing conditions, and the Democrats have no solution to this problem. Quote, Congressman Rothfuss said, the American Health Care Act is a solution that addresses both coverage for those with pre-existing conditions and affordability for everyone, with states having an opportunity to move away from Washington mandates and toward flexibility and choice. That is the big story. And Ted Arnaud, who's done a lot of lobbying and has been involved in politics in one form or another as a CEO and president of many companies, understands all too well the significance of health care. Ted, let's talk about why this, meaning Obamacare being repealed and replaced, this is all about replacing Obamacare subsidies with refundable tax credits based mainly on age, also cap on federal Medicaid funding pre-enrollees, and more generous health savings accounts. Your thoughts on this big story breaking today?
Well, I think it's the Republicans' attempt to try and make insurance not only more affordable but more usable. Sometimes the rates under Obamacare were lower, but you had such high deductibility that they really weren't usable. And so therefore the health care that was being provided was not exactly what the public wanted. So this is an attempt. They got it through the House, very close vote, but it's got to go through the Senate, where it will have a whole different aspect given to it. And you've already had some pretty conservative senators come out and say they certainly want to get their hands around it, and there will be big changes. But you got to give them credit that it's a tough bill. They got it through. But now there's going to be a lot more work starting in the Senate. So it's hard to get your hands around exactly what the bill's going to contain when it comes out of the Senate.
The working public on welfare, many of them, millions out there. Also, word that about 24 million people on the verge of losing their health care. There are about 72% of the American people out there struggling with just trying to hang on to health care and are losing health care as we speak. Just some numbers I'm throwing out at you. And also, here are some of the things that are out now because of what happened with the American Health Care Act as it passed today. And the president, along with Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, Vice President Michael Pence, and many others celebrating in the Rose Garden that vote 217 to 213. More generous subsidies for lower income Americans, Ted. End of Medicaid expansion money starting in 2020. End of taxes on wealthy insurers, drug makers, and even tanning salons. Limiting insurers charging older enrollees 3 times more than younger ones, and guaranteed protection for all those with pre-existing conditions. And that's the sentence that keeps coming up, those with pre-existing conditions. So they're talking about, with this Upton Act, meaning Billy Upton and Billy Long, a couple of representatives, adding $8 billion into the fund to take care of those with pre-existing needs. So they are really understanding, meaning those who passed this today and those who were involved in attempting to not get it passed today, the significance of those with pre-existing conditions and how they cannot drop the ball on those people.
I don't think they can, and I don't think they will. That's why I say that the Senate is going to massage this thing. I don't think anybody wants people with pre-existing conditions to be left out. But the numbers can be very scurrilous to get your arms around. They're saying 24 million people. That was a CBO estimate on the old health care bill that the Republicans failed to get through about a month ago. But they have yet to grade this one, and that's where you get the Republicans saying, we wanted to get this thing through, even though the CBO hasn't graded it. And yet they throw back to Nancy Pelosi saying when Obamacare was passed, we have to pass it in order to know what's in it. So the more deliberative body, the Senate, will get its arms, and I think that's when you're going to see a whole lot of trading and figuring out what to do. And let's face it, it's one of the most complex portions of our government. It's a huge piece of our economy, much greater than most of the other developed economies. Ours is between 16 and 20%. Most of the European industrialized economies are only around 10%. So you have to look and say it's got to be the system into these, and also 80% of the population is either on Medicare or Medicaid or covered by company insurance programs. So the numbers are tough to get your arms around because people keep throwing them all over the place. But like I said, the Senate getting a hold of it, a more deliberative body, I think we'll have a lot better understanding, and it's going to change a lot. So it's kind of like watching a football game and trying to decide what the score is in the first quarter, or who's going to be winning, who's going to win the game after the first quarter. Obviously, everybody's trying to make this thing work so that everybody wins the game, and we free up the market so that you can go across state lines. It can become more competitive. I think that's what the Republican goal is.
And in closing, the president also talked in the Rose Garden about better deductions as far as your deductible is concerned. It will be cheaper for the consumer out there when this thing is done, and we have a ways to go, as you mentioned. Do you think that's a realistic possibility? And this really isn't to help the middle class, if there even is a middle class. What is the big picture on this if it doesn't get done?
I think deductibility is the key component, because you can provide insurance, but if you can't use it, what good is it? You know, you can own a Rolls Royce, but if you can't afford the insurance premiums on driving the Rolls Royce, it's going to stay in your garage. And that's just like some of the people who have insurance, but they can't afford to use it because their deductible is so high. So you can't look at one component without really taking both into account.
All right, great opinion on Ted Arnaud's part, a guy who's been involved in the business of seeing legislation get passed, working on it, and obviously working closely with people in business. And he all knows, as we do, how important health care is for everyone. And we're going to be debating it all week. Of course, News Radio 1020, KDK. You can listen throughout the night. And of course, CBS Radio with the latest, along with the award-winning KDK Radio Newsroom. And I will be talking about it as well on the weekend, and already working on Rock Pratte Monday night. We are definitely going to be talking about it in the 9 o'clock hour, because Dr. Terry Madonna has agreed to join me for the full hour. He, of course, from Franklin and Marshall's Polling Center in Lancaster. Have a great weekend, everyone. And we'll be talking Kentucky Derby coming up later tonight. Dave Pasquale and I at Thursdays in Bridgewater. Good night.